Welcome to the Knowledge for Men show. Your life will never be the same.
Your level of success will seldom exceed your level of personal development.
I want to die empty of regret. I want to die empty of my best work. We don't understand who we are. Instead, we're living out somebody else's narrative.
What one man can do, another man can do. If it's been done, it can be done again.
Being yourself and being your truest, most authentic self in every moment. If it scares you or makes you a little afraid, do it. Follow your heart and your gut.
The first stage, I think, is finding you, like finding out who I am today.
Stuff will not work. You will have things that fail. Success is when you're a happy, fulfilled person. How do you define success?
It's your life, and you are the creator of the movie script that is your life story.
The father of personal development, Jim Rohn, said it best. You are the average of the 5 people you spend your most time with. And so I've created a mastermind community called the Lion's Den around this idea that if you are surrounded by high-performing people and you have consistent education and training, then you will succeed in life and as a man. Check out kfmlion.com to learn how the Lion's Den can take your life, relationships, and business to the next level. Again, that's kfmlion.com. Alright guys, welcome to the show. I'm here with Sean Russell. He's an entrepreneur and founder of menprovement.com. He's been overcoming issues with anxiety and has dedicated his life to becoming his best self while using what he learns to help men improve their lives. Alright, Sean, happy to have you on the show here.
Yeah, man. So glad to be here. I really appreciate it.
Alright, Sean, so we start off every show with a favorite success quote or some sort of saying that the guest has lived by. So what do you got for us? And then go ahead and explain why you chose that.
Yeah, this is tough for me because I live by quotes every day, but based on what we're going to talk about, or I'm going to talk about today, I think the best one would be, man cannot remake himself without struggle, for he is both the marble and the sculptor, because this really talks to me and what I went through in my life and who I am today.
Oh man, I like that quote. And is that something from you, or is that said from somebody?
It is said from somebody. I think it's Alexis Carrel. Yeah, and it's just one of those quotes that really resonates deeply with me.
How does that quote relate with your story, your journey?
Yeah, well, I guess I'll just go into the whole story from start to finish right now.
Let's dive in. Let's dive in. What do you got for us?
I'll try to make it as condensed as I can. And yeah, it's going to seem kind of weird and unrelatable to some people, but I hope, I've never really talked about it. And people like you and Lewis Howes coming out and sharing their stories and being vulnerable have inspired me to come out and talk about my story. Like, none of my friends even knew about this. So I'll start from the beginning. I was always a pretty privileged kid. I had lots of friends, great soccer player. We state champion, could have went professional at the age of 17 in England. And then I decided to go to college and play Division I here in New York. And I kind of went off track. You know, I got big into partying and girls, and I kind of just let my soccer career dwindle away. And I really didn't have any direction. I had no plans for after college. I didn't care what my major was. I was just there to play soccer and party, and didn't think it was ever going to end, kind of just very ignorant. But one evening just before my 21st birthday, the summer before senior year, I had a life-changing incident. I was hanging out with friends, and I ate a weed brownie, and I never really smoked weed at the time. I was just, a partier. Long story short, I had like a 4-hour-long panic attack that was like nothing I could have ever imagined ever happening to someone. I can't really explain it, but I literally lost my mind. And you hear stories about people who have drug-induced like paranoia and schizophrenia and like psychosis, and they end up like in mental hospitals, and you think that can never happen to someone, but something like that essentially happened to me. So long story short, 4 hours goes by. I'm curled up in a ball. Like, I don't even know how I survived it. And it feels like my brain kind of short-circuited. That's the best way I can explain it from that night. And ever since that night, I woke up the next day as pretty much a completely different person. It was a hollow shell of my old self. And for the next 3 months after that day, I was in and out of the ER with massive panic attacks, like earth-shattering panic attacks. My life was pretty much unlivable. I would wake up in the morning and I wouldn't know who I was or where I was, and I couldn't remember things, and my brain was just so messed up. And knowing what I know now, I know a lot of the science behind it, because essentially your amygdala is the control of the fear and anxiety in your brain. And what happens is, to a lot of people with extreme anxiety disorders is their amygdala gets stuck in the on position. And what happened to me in that one night of substance abuse and anxiety that was so unnaturally powerful, my amygdala essentially was just stuck in this extremely ridiculously bad on position of intense anxiety. And it was literally hell. I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. So I wasn't going to go back to school. Actually, I was going to, just stay home because my life was just a mess. But I pulled myself together and I made it back to school for my senior year. And I didn't tell anyone about it. I never mentioned it to anyone. And I went on, I played soccer my senior year. And I really just tried to live my life as I was before. I tried to just be who I was. I wanted to party and everything, but I was on a cocktail of antidepressants and anti-anxiety medications just to be able to like live normally amongst people. And that in combination with like drinking on the weekends and 4 nights a week, like college kids do, that went on for about 3 years. Like I was in that state for 3 years of just with a ruthlessly bad anxiety disorder and just kind of like a shell of myself, putting a pretty smile on.
So what's an example of that? What is the feeling that you're experiencing when you're going through this time?
It's like, it's a loneliness, because I'm trying so hard to assimilate to who I was, and I'm still having parties, I'm having people over. Like if you looked at me from the outside, it's still getting girls, you think I'm having a great time, but like behind the curtains and when the door's closed, I'm an absolute mess. And I'm just trying so hard to become who I was. And I never gave up hope. That's one thing is like throughout this whole time, there was never a moment that went through my head where I was like, oh, I'm screwed. Like I'm never going to get better. Like I always believed that I was going to be 100% better and a stronger person because of this. So we'll fast forward 3 years to 2013, which was, not too long ago. I graduated college, I got my degree, and pretty much soccer was done for me. And I kind of lost a lot of who I was through that. This whole situation just kind of killed my soccer career, along with before that, just, not really caring or trying and just partying a lot. So I got a job as an engineer because I graduated with a mechanical engineer degree. And this is June 2013. I'm still a mess. I'm trying so hard to go out and party with my friends. And I was on benzodiazepines like Xanax for so long while drinking that when I came off, my neurotransmitters were really messed up. So anytime I had a drink, even one drink, I would wake up the next day with like my vision shaking back and forth, and I would feel like I couldn't control my body, and it was really bad. So I could no longer drink. I didn't have soccer. I was in a 9-to-5 job that I hated, and I didn't hang out with any of my friends because I couldn't go out because my anxiety was so bad. So I just lost who I was like completely. And this is like over 3 years. And this is when I really decided that I was going to buckle down and make change. I always believed that I was going to get better, but I decided, I gave up drinking. I gave up all the medications. I stopped watching porn. I stopped eating gluten. I did everything I could to get on the road to recovery at 3 years later. And this is when I started my first website, which was tracking my personal progress so I can like help other guys become better. Like I wanted to be like getting girls and everything. Like I had all this motivation to make this website to track my progress to become like from absolute zero to like the man, even while I was in this horrible state. Like, I don't know, I guess I had always had drive from playing competitive sports my whole life, and it just translated into this. But then I was actually thrown another curveball about a month later after starting all this. After going off all the medication and drinking and all that, I was walking with my friends, and I was extremely stressed at work doing the engineering. And I think that the last 3 years of just damage to my nervous system and brain and just stress all came back and hit me like a ton of bricks. I literally collapsed, and my mind like shut off and my body shut off, and I thought I was dying. It was like a panic attack on steroids. I literally thought I was dying, and the only thing I could think of was that I was never going to see my parents again or anything. And it was one of the scariest moments of my life. So I got my, somehow I got out of there. I got my friend to drive me home. And for the next 2 weeks, I couldn't get out of bed. I had to take off of work. I had no energy. I was just like this mess. And I ended up getting shingles during this time. And my life was hell. I went back to work, and for 3 months I would like sit at my desk, like trembling. Like I couldn't do anything except go to work or go home because it would just cause me so much anxiety. And nobody knew this. And my friends at work were like cool guys. They would like to go out for beers every day after work. And they must have thought I was the weirdest kid, like the most sickly kid. I always had colds. Like my immune system was so beat up. And I never gave up. I kept on with like meditating every day and personal development. And 3 months later, I was a little bit better. I was functional, but I was this person who really was starting like a baby. Like I had to learn how to go out again. Like even going to the supermarket caused me anxiety, but like little by little, I started to progress and do things.
So you're this competitive athlete, could have gone pro, and you're at the grocery store and the checkout experience is nerve-wracking.
Everything. Yeah. Like I can't even explain it because I'm so much different now. But like when you're in that state of anxiety, you're not really in control. Your mind is in control of you. And if you don't know how to fix yourself, you could be stuck like that forever. But luckily I figured out what to do eventually. But in about August 20th, I kept going with the personal development just to like get from unlivable to livable and expanding my comfort zone. I even started to like approach girls and do anything I could do to like slowly assimilate back into life. I haven't drank in over a year. You know, things were going good. I was recovering from my chronic fatigue, which was still pretty bad. I still never had any energy, but August 20th, I came up with the idea for mentimprovement.com. Like even while in this state of like distraughtness, I would be at work and then come home and work on websites and personal development because I couldn't do anything else. You know, I couldn't go out, I couldn't go drink. So I would sit home in my bed and work on websites. And I came up with the idea for mentimprovement.com because I noticed how many websites there were out there for men, but there was nothing that like linked everything together and was just like, I had this idea of what I wanted to do. So I started that and I gave up on my old website because honestly, it was crap. And I'd be working on men improvement at my engineering job for 5 hours a day. I would come home, I'd work on it. I'd be listening to 6 hours of podcasts a day, reading. I just immersed my life in it. And this really helped me get better. It gave me like a light at the end of the tunnel and something to be excited about. And then something incredible happened. I came across a program that helps people cure themselves of chronic fatigue syndrome, which I had at this point.
What is that chronic fatigue syndrome? Is this like...
I'll give a scientific explanation.
Okay.
Of it. But people with chronic fatigue syndrome, it varies. Some people can't leave their bed, and some people just are very tired all the time. And doctors don't have an explanation for it. They give all these tests and everything, and they can't figure out anything wrong with these people. So they label them with chronic fatigue syndrome. It's kind of an out, like, oh, you have chronic fatigue syndrome, and there's nothing you can do, and they send them home. But in reality, when people with chronic fatigue syndrome, what's really happening is that their amygdala, even if they're not distraught with like anxiety, their amygdala is stuck in an on position and is overactive, and their nervous system is overactive. So they're becoming anxious, and their nervous system is being stimulated by like the symptoms of fatigue, and that is causing more fatigue, and it's an ongoing loop. So I found this program, which is Dr. Gupta's Amygdala Retraining program, which I instantly was like, I learned a lot about my brain during this time, and I was like, this is what I need. Like I need to retrain my amygdala. And that program, along with everything I was doing personal development wise for mentimprovement.com and just dedicating my life, 6 months later, now I'm a new person. It's unbelievable. Like I'm stronger. I've completely let go of trying to be who I was, the party animal. Like people see me now and they don't recognize me, and they're confused because I used to be the guy doing a backflip off a table into like a pyramid of beers. And now I'm like the most serious person who's just, I'm obsessed with living my life to the fullest. And I'm no longer going through life just day by day without any care about the future. Like I want to make an impact in this world and just be the best I can be.
What does that mean when you just want to live your life to the fullest?
Yeah, like I came back from rock bottom to being like baseline probably 3 or 4 months ago, like a normal person. And this was using all the tactics and everything that I live my life by now. And since then I've been able to essentially become better than I ever have been, better than I was when I was 17 and could have gone pro, better than like happier than I've ever been and more self-fulfilled. And I'm just determined to make the most out of every second that I have. After going through what I went through, I realized like how precious everything is. And I'm obsessed with becoming my best self. You know, I'm no longer motivated by recovering myself because I've recovered, but now I'm just motivated to be the best I can possibly be and help others do that as well.
Yeah, I like that.
So that's the story. Sorry, it was so long.
No. That's good. That's good. And so now just diving into like some of the lessons you pulled out of it. You said you studied like personal development and you did the Gupta, Amygdala Retraining program.
Yeah.
How long did this take for you? And like, how do you feel right now compared to where you were like just last year?
I'm like a different person than where I was 6 months ago, even, and like a completely different person than when I was last year. I think the Gupta program was like like the last finishing touch for me. I wouldn't say, I don't even want to say I'm like 100%, but honestly, I still have moments where I'm anxious. Like if I were to go and give a speech in front of a bunch of people, I'd be anxious as all hell right now, and this is something I want to do in my life. So I'm going to eventually have to break that comfort zone. I mean, compared to how I was when I was younger and I was just, like living in the moment and I never really had any direction, I'm a much better and stronger person than that. And I wouldn't go back and change any of this for anything because it's made me into who I am today.
I think it's a common challenge for, maybe not common, but I know there are a lot of guys out there who have like anxiety, social anxiety, where they just feel like they don't know what to do in social situations. They feel like they're just kind of like an observer of the situation. Like,
yeah, I mean, as much as I'm strong in like helping people overcome anxiety, I'm still not the expert in like anything to do with overcoming social anxiety. I do it myself. I've been approaching women for the last 6 months because I had such social anxiety, and I have gotten quite good at it and better, but I'm still in like a never-ending progress to become more social. But what I would recommend to guys who are socially anxious is just,
but that's all you need is just, you don't need to be the expert. You just got to know something else that somebody doesn't know.
Yeah. What helped me is like manning up and going out there and doing cold approach pickup, as like simple as that sound. But in the social anxiety setting, it's the best therapy you can ever do, because it's gonna cause you a lot of pain. But if you can do that for 3 months and just like learn how to approach women, that's gonna help your social anxiety, I think, more than anything else out there.
I can definitely relate. Like I've done my, and still do, go out very often. But let's talk about the subject, because I think a lot of guys will just be thrown off by that statement.
Yeah.
And I just kind of want to dive deeper and like, what are you learning about yourself from approaching women that you don't know? How is this helping your personal growth?
Oh, it's a tough question. I mean, it's expanding your comfort zone, and you learn so much from this stuff. It's just one area of like what we talk about on menimprovement.com and what I like to do when I help people improve their life. But when you can, become self-reliant and pull your happiness from within and not seek validation, and be able to be free to approach like any woman you want and break free from that nervous person that you are, unable to approach women who I was, to the guy who's just like, yeah, I am going to do this because I want to and because it's fun, and I really don't care what anyone else thinks. I'm just enjoying my life. I think that is really powerful, and that will echo into every area of your life. But more than what I like to teach people and talk about, rather than just like social anxiety and improving that area, is just like general ways to improve your life, in every area.
How has the cold approaching like affected other areas of your life? Like how is it like branched off? Because you're breaking out of comfort zone, you're becoming more free, you're expressing yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I've only been doing it for like, I did it pretty consistently for like 3 months, and then I took a couple months off because I was so deep in the business and building the website. But I started off again in the last couple of weeks, and it just makes you a more confident guy and more at ease in no matter what you're doing. When you're dealing with customers, when you're dealing with people, it helps your social skills, and it's just one of those things that you can do to just take yourself to the next level. But for me, it just helps me. It helps me just talk to anyone, my friends. It helps me feel good about myself. And when you can talk to a beautiful woman, it's just a great skill to have.
Yeah. Any advice for guys who are in relationships right now and don't want to be like talking to women just because, they're in a relationship, but they would still like to challenge themselves and grow in this area?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I have any specific advice for those guys because I'm not in that space myself, but I have a lot of advice for guys in general, for like going from wherever you are now to improving your life. And I think I've come up with like a pretty solid step-by-step process consisting of 10 steps that anyone can do regardless of their goal, even if it's getting over social anxiety, meeting women, or making money, or losing weight. I think that these 10 steps can help anyone, and I'd love to dive into those if you're cool with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah. All right. So, over the last 2 years, I've listened to probably over 1,000 podcast episodes, and I'm now interviewing experts myself, and I just watch videos, and I love to self-educate. And this is what I found to be like the 10 biggest things that connected everyone. And I think that if you apply these steps towards even picking up women, any area of your life, it is like a general set of steps for improving your life, because it's so hard when you run like a self-improvement website that has like 10 categories for someone to ask you like, oh, what can I do for this? So I really wanted to come up with like a general thing that anyone can take and apply to any area of self-improvement. And I think I've done it. I mean, it helps me. This is what I've learned over the last 4 years.
All right. You got me all excited now. Let's do it.
It took me years to like correlate these 10 steps. It's crazy. But the first step would be deciding to take the wheel per se. Your entire life has brought you to where you are right now, like listening to this podcast. And if you haven't already taken the wheel, then you are who you are because of hundreds of external influence that have shaped you into the man you are today. Teachers, parents, society, the media have all had a huge impact on who you are right now. And your whole life, you're told not to be different. You're told not to raise your hand, don't speak out of turn. You're told to get a good job and all that. So the first step, I think, in any process is to say, I accept who I am now, but I choose to take responsibility for my life and take the wheel. And once you make this choice, you can become anyone you want. You're like entering a path of self-improvement, and you no longer let external influences shape you. The second step would be to set your mental GPS and essentially get a clear vision of who you want to be. So if you had social anxiety and you want to be the kind of guy who gets tons of women, you need to set like a clear vision of really who you want to be. Like, do you want to be this huge player, or do you want to get a hot girlfriend? Whatever it is, if you're not living your life without clear vision or your GPS set, like I wasn't in college, it's like driving around without a map. You may have a great time, but at the end of the journey, you can end up in an awesome place, or you can end up a big mess with like an anxiety disorder. I didn't have my mental GPS set earlier, but I think it's so important. And you don't want to wake up one day when you're 35 and say, how the fuck did I get here? So many people do that, and so many people talk to me about that. So you need to set a clear vision of who you want to be before you can become that person. And what I recommend to people is to write down a one-page ideal version of themselves in 5 years. Like, what are you doing? Who are you with? How does it feel? And this is just kind of like making it real. And if you don't know what you want to do with your life, which is a big problem, a lot of people are always asking, like, how do I figure out my passion? I think deep down, everyone knows what they would love to do with their life, but a lot of people are just waiting for permission to do it. And you're never going to get that permission. So you just really write down, what do you love to do? Like, what would you love to do over anything else? And figure out ways you can offer value to other people to do it, because the gold is in the value. And if you can offer value doing something, you can do anything.
Yeah, keep rolling. This is good.
Yeah. So the third step would be kind of branching right off of the second step, would just be to make yourself accountable by making your goals a reality. And it's setting goals. And I know how powerful setting goals is, but if you so now you have a clear vision of what you want to do, and you need to write it down. And I like this. Like, I kind of got this from Lewis Howes. Like I said, I learned all these things from so many different people. He writes it down, he signs it, and then he frames it on his wall, and he has it somewhere where you can always see it. And I've got my goals pasted right above my bed, and I look at them and I read them every day. And it's so powerful because you're making yourself accountable. And if you want to go even further, you can tell other people about it. You can write it on Facebook. You can tell people your goals. You can say what you're going to do in 5 years. You're making yourself accountable. So now you actually have to go out and do the work, or else people are going to be like, hey, you didn't do it. Or you're going to look at your goals and you're going to be like, I failed. You're making yourself accountable. And other recommendations I have on this are one from Grant Cardone, which is to 10x your goals. I love that philosophy. Take your goal and then times it by 10 and aim for that goal. I think it's a really powerful technique. And another one is to set mini goals along the way. So if your big goal is to, be able to cold approach women, just set goals to go out and be able to walk up to them and say anything. Setting these small goals is just setting you up for little wins along the way. And then step 4 on this journey would be to have your goal and reverse engineer it. So you need to figure out how you're going to get there. And the way to do this is just to brainstorm, write it down, everything you would need to do day in and day out to get there, to become this person. And it doesn't even have to go farther than that. It's that simple. And it jumps into step 5, which is to create automation and habits and a successful environment based on what you should be doing every day. And you actually just had a show about habits, and I'm a big proponent of it. And I truly believe that half of what we do every day is automatically habitual. And if you can make every last percentage of those habits geared towards your success instead of being filled with bad habits and holding you back, that alone can just make you such a better person. So the first step I would recommend is to become mindful of what habits you have now and start breaking your bad habits and introduce positive habits. Like a good one to start with is meditation. One that I really like is making your bed every time you wake up. And like habits like this, even just being clean, they progress. And now like every time I eat, I clean my dishes beforehand. Every time I go to bed, my room's clean. And like it becomes automatic. And that helps me work harder in my business because I'm clear-headed and my nervous system's not on fight or flight because I'm not overwhelmed, and I can perform more effectively. And having these habits in your everyday life, like making it a habit to approach every hot girl you see if you have social anxiety, after 2 months, that habit is going to shape your success. And if you can shape your environment around it as well, just surround yourself with material that teaches you how to pick up women, constantly educate, which jumps into step 6, self-educate for at least an hour a day on your subject. If you could self-educate and read for at least 1 hour a day or listen to a podcast for 1 hour a day on what you want to do, what you're doing here is you're immersing yourself in your goal. It's not just a goal, it's becoming your life. So you're creating your 50% of your day that's automated habits, and you're constantly self-educating. You're becoming your goal. And eventually it doesn't become something you have to do. It just becomes who you are. And this is, to me, like one of the keys to success. So that's step 6 would be to self-educate. And if even Tony Robbins is still self-educating to this day. And he, you think he knows everything, but you never know everything. Step 7 would be to visualize daily and trust that you're going to succeed. And I think daily visualization is so powerful because essentially you're putting yourself at the finish line daily. You're knowing what it feels like to be there, and you're living it now. And then you can come back to the present state and stay as that person, stay in that feeling and live your life as that person, and trust that you're going to get there because you're going to go put in the work to make it happen. I like to say that I'm going to achieve my goals or I'm going to die trying, and I'm not going to be like mediocre. I'm not going to be in the middle. I'm going to be the best version of myself, or I'm going to die trying. And there's nothing short. And that's just a belief that I have in my head. Step 8 would be to obviously put in the work. And one of my favorite quotes, which I was going to have at the beginning, was baby steps will take you to the top of Mount Everest just as long as you keep taking them. Because that's what I live my life by now as well, is if you can take baby steps towards your goal every single day, you're going to get there. And this can help guys with social anxiety. If you really want to beat social anxiety and you haven't done anything about it in a week, you're not helping yourself. If you can take baby steps every single day, no matter how small it is, even if you approach one girl, if you approached one girl every day for the next year, you would be a different person by the end of that year. So when it comes to putting in the work, there's no amount of daily visualization that can substitute for actually going out there and making it happen. So you should have your goal in mind, and you should have your big goal in mind, but then you need to focus on what you can do each day individually to get one step closer to that goal. So you need to break it down. Like, what can I do today just to get one step closer? You need to think big, but then you need to live in the now and enjoy the process, because if you're living with your head in the end goal and it might take you 3 to 5 years to get there, it's going to be really discouraging. And that's how people quit. So number 9 are mandatory extras, as I call it. And the first 8 steps, I believe, will take you to your goals over time. And these mandatory extras, I think, are mandatory because they're so powerful. And I think the first one is gratitude. And pretty much every self-help guru that I've learned from and everyone who I've studied talks about gratitude. There's not one successful person that doesn't practice daily gratitude. And what it is just being consciously grateful for what you have. And at first you can make it a habit by consciously writing down or announcing everything you're grateful every morning and night. But as this habit develops, you're going to become grateful for everything. Even in shitty situations, you're going to find things to be grateful for. And that is powerful because it opens doors. Self-love is the next one, because there's no success if you don't love yourself. What would be the point of success? You know, even if you got to be the best pickup artist in the world, but you just weren't happy and you didn't love yourself, there would be absolutely no point in being there. And the third is taking care of your body, health and fitness. I have it as a mandatory extra just because 20 minutes a day of exercise is one of the top 3 habits of like the most successful people in the world. And you can have your mind perfect, but if your body's not perfect, then you're losing out on so much equilibrium and so much power. And step 10 would just be going the extra mile, I like to call this. These things are not mandatory for success, but these are some of the staples in improving your life that I do on a daily basis and that I recommend to people. And it just has a huge effect. The first one is taking cold showers. And there's something about waking up and having a cold shower that just builds willpower and sets you up for like the most successful day ever. And if you can make this a habit, and honestly, you don't have to do all cold. I do like 10 minutes hot, 3 minutes cold at the end, and it's not bad. But there's so many health benefits of this. It's crazy. And it's actually clinically proven to like reduce depression. And I've been doing it for a month and I feel markedly better after a month. It's incredible. The second extra would to be clean and organized. And this is one of my biggest self-improvement tips, because when you aren't clean or organized, and especially like, Andrew, running a business, if you're not organized, and like for me, I have to inbox 0 every day, it's so easy to get overwhelmed. And when you get overwhelmed, your nervous system is in a state of fight or flight, and you produce different brain waves and you're pumping out stress hormones, and this clouds your thinking, stresses you out, and makes you less capable of producing. So I find that being super clean and organized lets me stay stress-free regardless of how much I have going on in my life, and I can produce more. Like, you've seen the movie Limitless. Like, what's the first thing he does when he ingests the pill other than having sex with his landlord's wife?
Yeah, what does he do? Oh, I forget.
He cleans his entire apartment.
Oh, yeah, that's
like,
right.
Why would a guy who now unlocked his entire brain waste 4 hours cleaning his apartment? Because, he goes and makes like millions of dollars on the stock market. But first he cleans his entire apartment, because he walks in there, he's like, how the fuck did I live like this? Like, if you want to be successful and your place has pizza boxes everywhere, like, you're not like, what are you doing, man? You gotta organize your life, because it's just going to make you so much better. And the third is daily meditation. And I have this as an extra because I know a lot of people aren't into it, but I had to meditate out of necessity to calm my nervous system down. But now I do it because it's just so powerful, and it keeps me in a relaxed state of mind and able to think clear and produce so much more. 20 minutes every morning is really all you need. And the fourth is to have live mentors and coaching. And it's something I never did, but I know a lot of people talk about it. I know you talk about it, which is why it's an extra for me. But I think that people can have mentors of all kinds just through the people that they study and the people who they listen to every day. And that's, I never had a live mentor, but when I can afford coaching, I think that coaching is definitely something I'm going to do, because people swear by it. So pretty much those are my 10 steps.
There it is.
Yeah, there it is. And there's one last mind frame that I just thought about that I'm actually going to add into this after today, is to play the long game. I don't know if you're familiar with the term the long game. Are you?
It sounds like, no shortcuts in life.
Yeah, I mean, there's this awesome video that I watched, and it shows it documents some of the most successful people's lives, and it's like Da Vinci, Tesla, and it showed that all of them, they, at the age of 30, Tesla was living in his parents' house and he was broke, and Da Vinci failed hundreds of times over 10 years, and all these guys were assistants, and they weren't no one even knew who they were for years, and now they're these famous people of history, and people just assume that they were born like that. So playing the long game is like being prepared to like put in the work over a course of like 2 to 5 years and not taking any shortcuts, like you said, because think about it. Like if you take shortcuts with women and you're using gimmicks, it's only going to take you so far. But if you can play the long game and become the type of guy who, doesn't need to use gimmicks and attract women, it's going to be a lot harder, but then you're going to be able to get any woman you want. And it's the same in business. A get rich scheme is only going to make you a couple $1,000s before it crumbles. But if you can build something over the long term that's going to last forever, you might never have to work a day in your life. So the longer things take, it's usually better. So be prepared to put in the work. And that's it. Sorry for hijacking this entire thing right there. But
no, it's really good though, because you've laid out a lot of concepts that can be applied into almost any man's life, every area.
Yeah. Like I believe that so much that you can take that and apply it to losing weight. You can take it and apply it into anything. And like, that's why I like it so much.
Yeah, man. So you've gone through quite a journey here. Just briefly, I'll ask 2 questions in the knowledge round and then we'll outro. So are you ready for the knowledge round?
Yeah, I think so.
Do you feel stuck, alone, or like you're not getting the type of results you think you deserve? You put in all the hard work in your life, relationships, and business, but things just aren't getting any better? I've been there. That's how I started. That's where I was. I kept trying to improve my life, but nothing just seemed to give. I started to think that personal development was a joke. I felt like every month I was in the same place I was the previous month. But then I found something that just worked. I grew, my business grew, my relationships flourished, and everything around me just started to click. People started respecting me more, and I finally felt like I was becoming the man I wanted to be. I created a program to help guys get the same results in their life. Check out kfmline.com to learn how the Lion's Den can radically transform your life. Again, that's kfmline.com. Welcome to the Knowledge Round, where the guests will be asked rapid-fire questions to give the audience invaluable pieces of wisdom to help transform their lives. Starting in 3, 2, 1, showtime. The first question here is, what advice would you give to someone who's feeling kind of lost or unsure of what they should do with their life?
Yeah, it's a hard question, and a lot of people, I struggled with answering this question because I knew what I wanted to do with my life after all this. So when people asked me, I never knew what to tell them. So I looked into it. I actually had a podcast about it myself. And I think the best things that I've heard are to just, get out the pen and paper and brainstorm, your strengths, what you love to do, and find a way that you can make money and bring value to others through those things that you love to do. And I think it's really that simple. And I think that a lot of people, like I said before, are waiting for permission to do what they want. Like deep down, I think everyone knows what they would love to do with their life, but they just don't think they're allowed to do it. I think you need to step back from like society that we're in and realize that we're all just like people. We're like animals with consciousness, and you can do anything. You don't have to be good and get a 9-to-5 job and do what other people want you to do. You can do whatever you want. It may take you a while to get there, and you may have to do it on the side at first, but I truly believe that people deep down like know what they want, but they just need to have the courage to just say, I'm going to go for it no matter what anyone thinks.
And now, just to kind of have a little reflection here, imagine you had 60 seconds here with your 20-year-old self. What would you tell him to do, and what would you tell him not to do?
Yeah, you'd think that I would go back and, because when I had the incident, it was 21. So you'd think I'd go back and say like, don't eat that brownie, right? And like do this and do that. Right. But honestly, I don't think I would be who I was today if I didn't have that experience. I think I would be working as an engineer right now, going out and drinking on the weekends and on the perpetual treadmill of like average life and be okay with it, So honestly, I don't think I would tell myself anything. I think that I needed that kick in the ass, and I think it's shaped me into who I am today, and I'm so grateful for it.
That's good. So, some guys say that, and I think that's really good because it's like you really embrace the journey and the path that's kind of been dealt, and that's what's made you who you are and are continuing to grow into. So I respect that.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
And now, so we'll conclude there. And what's exciting you today? Like, what are things that you're working on now? What's the future look like of your website and of yourself and other challenges, stuff like that?
And I love that word, like exciting, because it's like the first time in my life that Sunday nights I can hardly sleep because I'm so excited to like get up and like create and build stuff on menimprovement.com. And I think that's like a feeling that everyone needs to chase, like being excited to wake up and do what you want. Like, going back to that passion thing, find out what excites you to wake up. And that's your calling. But yeah, Menimprovement, it excites me. It's 15 months old. I make a full-time living. I'm planning on traveling the world with my friend who's now working for me. And it's growing unbelievably. We have 20,000 people a day coming to the site. The podcast is a hit. I love doing it. I'm learning so much. I'm helping so many people, and I'm so grateful for it. Like, honestly.
Yeah, I love that too. And it's good to hear that. It's good to feel that. And I think it kind of just, it spreads out onto the listeners as well. Just when they feel your energy, they can feel the energy, the growth, the transformation, and the story. They can kind of put it together, and really, it might not be exactly what someone was looking for, but you can still apply it into your life in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
All right. So go ahead and give yourself a plug on how my audience can follow up with you.
Well, yeah, I got, the main site is menimprovement.com. We have like 4 or 5 articles a day on just ways to improve your life. It's no bullshit. It's no Barstool Sports or mainstream stuff that you'll see on like Ask Men or Men's Health. It's just straight up how to become a better man. And we have a podcast that, it's pretty good. So you could check it out. If you want to learn more about me personally, I have a personal website that's seanrussell.me. It's fairly new, so don't judge it. There's only a couple posts, but
all right. That's going to conclude our interview here. I just want to thank you, Sean, for being on the show, sharing your story, and really opening up like you did in the beginning, and being vulnerable, and really, connecting with the audience, and spending some time going through the lessons that you learned from that experience. So I thank you for your time, Sean.
No, man, I'm so grateful to be on here. And I hope that, my story can resonate with someone out there to know that no matter what shit you're in, like, you can get out of it, and you can be better than you ever were before. So don't give up. Thank you, Andrew.
All right. Thank you for listening to the Knowledge for Men podcast. Hundreds of interviews and 1 million downloads later, we're continuing to build an international movement, and we've just started. So if you enjoyed this episode, go ahead and leave a review in iTunes. It really helps to grow the podcast. Guys, 2015 is the official year of living with purpose, where every day you do only the things that matter to you. You wake up, live with purpose, and take massive action towards the life you want. Check out kfmfree.com to get free tools I've created to help you crush life. Again, that's kfmfree.com. This is your host, Andrew Farabee, and I'll see you in the next episode.